Hello and welcome to the University Dwell podcast, where we talk about university life and more. And with me today, I have Mr. Lanre, but I'm going to allow him to introduce himself to us and tell us a little bit about what he does. Hello, Mr. Lanre.
Hi, and thank you for having me on the program today.
Thank you for coming. So tell us, what do you do?
Well, I'm an entrepreneur at the moment.
Okay.
I run a company that specializes in applying digital technology solutions to enhancing aspects of life. So in education, medicine, in agriculture, and in e-commerce. We have technology interventions, digital technology interventions that help to accelerate and improve on how, people interact and gain value from each other.
The topic is like curriculums. Are the current curriculum outdated and ineffective, or are some laws and principles unchanging? So, one thing that we always say when I was writing JAM or WAEC, my past questions started from like the early 90s, late 80s. And people would argue that, for example, with biology, the body hasn't changed. So we're still learning the same things. But what I would say to that is a curriculum is more than just the subjects matter. It's also how you're teaching things as much as the subject matter. So I'd like to know your thoughts. Do you think that in the Nigerian education system, we are just not changing, or there are just some principles that are unchanging, so there's no point of changing our curriculum?
So let me set context for you. Some 45 years ago, I had the privilege, about 44 years ago, I had the privilege of schooling within the American system. It was the first time for me. I happened to have been born to a professor. And every 7 years, they have this thing they call the sabbatical. That's where you leave your university and you go to another university. Like an exchange. And at that time, he chose to go to the US. And so, we got the privilege to go along and go to school. And for me, it was a life-changing experience. My mother takes me to school and says to the teacher, yes, so we need the list of textbooks that he needs to come to school with, the textbooks. Then we need to know how many exercise books to buy and all. So the American teacher smiled and said, oh, no, he won't be needing textbooks. And, my mother almost fell off the chair. She was like, I thought you said it's a school. So the teacher goes, oh, no, but I'll tell you what he'll need. You need to give him a pair of scissors, some crayons, pencils, some colored paper. So my mom is looking at her like, are you guys sure?
I'm in the right place.
You know what it means to run a school. But I'll tell you what changed for me was that, different from the British curriculum schooling system, where education is pushed at you. In the American system, you are encouraged to find education. So they don't crowd you with it. What they do is that they put you in an environment and let your interest lead you. So every 2 or 3 days, the class teacher says to us, so everybody go to the library, watch a microfilm. You didn't have all these fancy things then, Watch a microfilm, listen to a record, read a book, and come back to the class and tell everyone what you learned. Now, another thing was that I was a bit of an odd child. I would leave everybody and go out to the back of the house or the back of my class in school, and I would spend hours watching ants. I was fascinated by the kind of community they ran, the worker ants, the soldier ants, the cleaning of the nest. I mean, I'm talking about hours. My classmates in secondary school used to call me Professor of Ants, because if they looked for me and they didn't find me, they knew.
For the ants.
And you see, everyone laughed at me in Nigeria. But when I was in the US and I was introduced to the nature teacher and I started talking, the woman was grinning from ear to ear. And right after that, every week when it was time for nature class, she would take me by the hand and we would go into the bush at the back of the school and start looking at ants and caterpillars and butterflies. And I was wondering, is this adult okay? I thought it was only children that were meant to be foolish like this. I hope she's all right.
Yes.
But what am I saying again? You were left to find knowledge. It wasn't pushed at you. So very early on, you could see where each child's strength lay, just based on what they would go to learn and bring back. And you see, when your passion leads you when you are learning, it's amazing how far you would go. So there wasn't this keenness in class of, I scored A, I got 99. It was really more of, how much were you able to learn about the things that interested you? Your desk is full of all kinds of creative material. They don't put textbooks in the children's desks. The textbooks are all in the library. But you've got, paper, this whole thing, the American children do this game, they play rock, paper, scissors. Yeah. It comes from the classroom environment. That's where it's from. It's about creativity. It's about passion for learning and about your own inner drive. So I studied mechanical engineering. When I say to people these days, it scares them. God, I've gone so far from that. It's scary to think about. But I did study mechanical engineering. But I got disenchanted very quickly because I spent my 5 years doing some of the most rigorous mathematics you can ever imagine, until a point where I had to ask some of my professors, why didn't you just call this course advanced mathematics? Because this is all we're doing. And I would, at that time there wasn't internet, but because there were magazines that were going back and forth, between the developed economies or the Western economies and here, I would see my colleagues in year 2, year 3 engineering building, basic vehicles, race cars and all of that. In many universities, by the time you're in year 3 mechanical engineering, there is a racing kart competition that many American universities come together to do. You build the karts. You build them with the basic motors and everything, and then you race them and their prizes, and it's like Grand Prix, it's like Formula One. And, the kids are just, and I just ached for something like that. So by the time I was done with uni, I'd lost interest in engineering completely. Wow. Which was why it was easy for me when Procter & Gamble offered me a marketing job. I mean, I thought they were crazy at the second. I told them, I said, look, I'm a pure science student, maths, physics, chemistry. But, P&G is famous for that worldwide. They said to me, don't worry, just say yes and we'll take care of the rest. And I can tell you that 34 years later now, I have not regretted that decision. So coming to the curriculum that we have in Nigeria today, I begin to applaud some of the moves that the Ministry of Education is making. The current curriculum, as defined all the way from maybe, say, secondary education upwards, is too academic. It's too academic. It's too, how do I say this now? Intellectual prowess driven. And you see, the beauty that your generation enjoys is that knowledge has expanded so massively and has become so broadly available because of the advancement of technology that I don't have to be a genius now to make things happen. The information is there all.
Everywhere.
I mean, imagine I'm talking to somebody and you're trying to fool me. I pull out my Google and I'm saying, keep talking, and I'm going to show you right now whether what you're saying is right or wrong. So in this kind of context, like I would say to my professors in university 30 years ago, then I would say to them, why are you making me solve first, second, and third other differential equations when some people died? They spent their whole lives investing in it. Why don't you just let me hear what came out at the end of the differential equations, and then let's move on to, so Lanre, what are you going to add on top of what has been done? And my father was a professor too. He was actually in the same university. So my dean went to him one day and said, your son is going to have problems. He said, why? He said, he's asking questions that are too big for his level, that he can't be challenging the fundamentals of his engineering at this point. Tell him to just memorize what he's been taught and regurgitate. And as soon as my father said this, I said, boy, we don't do that in this family. And he started smiling. I said, I don't cram things, I regurgitate them. I understand things, and I am able to advance on them, which is why when I went into marketing, research and strategy was an easy option for me. I didn't go into production of advertising materials and all that. I went into research, I went into strategy because it expands the mind. It's again that American concept. Let the child come to knowledge. Don't push knowledge at them. Put it around the child. So we've got to reformulate our curriculum away from the academic context, more to the creative and situational. So what am I saying? I'll give you a typical Lagos scenario. Where do the gutters in Lagos drain to?
Oh, I don't know.
The answer is nowhere. That's why the gutters in Lagos are perennially full. And why do I know this? I live in Lekki.
Oh.
I've lived in Lekki for 20 years of my life now.
Once it rains.
And I've said to myself, what would it take for students of mechanical engineering and civil engineering in Unilag to have a course on drainage engineering? Because we would see immediately the benefit of that course as soon as the children come out of school. In fact, we'll start seeing it while they are still in school. Because you could bring a whole contingent of them to Lekki and say, well, in your year 4, this is your job. Please solve their problem here. If they need to spend money, let them know how much. I think that education, particularly in the part of the world where we're trying to catch up with those that took advantage of early technology development to run far ahead, needs to become that pragmatic and not too academic and textual. You understand? All these things, a professor comes into class. Another thing I used to fight with university, he's got a textbook. Now, that textbook is sold in the university bookshop. He stands in front of the blackboard. He copies out that textbook, and all of you are racing. I'm a funny person when I think that, which is probably why my professor said the things that my father. I said, this is the most useless activity I've witnessed in my life. All of us are copying something that was printed. I might as well spend my time sleeping in my room. But if we spent that time looking at a situational challenge, even in the university, or we went into Ife town. I attended University of later Obafemi Awolowo University. We went into town and looked at a mechanical problem. And said, you know what, guys? Let's spend time fixing this. That kind of approach to education would, first of all, fascinate the children more. Secondly, engage them better. Thirdly, will lead to solutions that improve people's lives and pay those children. If children solved the drainage problem in Lekki, they'd be millionaires.
Absolutely.
Imagine them moving from street to street and saying, okay, everybody, house by house, pay us 200,000.
When it rains, it won't flood.
You wouldn't even know it's raining. And they solve it. Now you are arming these children with something that they can use to benefit the society immediately, translates to value for the society itself, and makes their program more interesting. Because I can understand now why I'm a civil engineer, not why I have become Albert Einstein suddenly, from solving advanced, calculus, but I can't see for the life of me where that is going to be relevant.
Absolutely. I think this was very enlightening. It was very interesting. I think it kind of plays back to the fact that I don't think we truly understand education for what it means. It's more like the prestige of it. Oh, I went to school. And so we aren't particularly going to school to learn and to apply what we learn. We're just going to school for school's sake, which is unfortunate. And I really hope that we can evolve to accommodate like what our society needs.
I think that's the magic word you just used. So I wouldn't say that we didn't understand. I think at the time Nigeria took on its educational system, post-colonialism, it served the purpose.
It served the purpose. Okay, I could agree.
What it hasn't done is it has not evolved with the times to deal with the context we have today. Someone said somewhere where I was that the children of today, don't come to an interview that I'm sitting in, and what was the funny thing she said? And you've got a device with you, and you are looking at that device before the interview, and I don't get the sense that you went to do your research before you came. I said, what year are you living in? Everything about what you want to talk to that child about is on that device. Yeah. She's going to learn more from that device than from walking around asking anybody questions. The problem is, look, get your mind out of these old times. We live in an age now where people can stay in one place and make money from another continent. Yes. Technology allows that. So if that kind of evolution has happened, let the education curriculum evolve with that as well. So it's the evolution that we need now, and we need thinkers, pragmatic ones now, not ivory tower thinkers, who are able to say, look, connect the dots. Where are the issues that these students, these children, these undergraduates can solve relative to what they're doing? And how do we re-engineer their curriculum to position them so that they see what they're doing immediately benefiting from, or being beneficial to, for example, the challenges that are, in the society.
Absolutely. I think I'll conclude by saying I think the education system needs you. I think they need you to speak to them, because it's very exciting when you see older people actually understanding like the struggles that we have, and I'm very thankful for this conversation.
I'm rooting for your generation. I think that the situation we put you in and what it has made you is a blessing in disguise for Nigeria, because nobody had a plan for you, and you basically had to make your way. Yes. And that's why you are so defiant of rules, because your thing is, look,
you can't cage
me. No. I got here today by being creative.
Exactly.
So don't let anybody take me back to suit and tie and try to preach anything to me.
Absolutely.
Just let me breathe, Yes. As long as I don't break any rules and I get what I need to get done, give me my space. Okay. We still need to have some boundaries for decency. But I think this kind of creativity, this kind of running away from, academic barriers is important to really get Nigeria to unleash its potential, because I tell you, Nigerians are super intelligent and super creative. Absolutely. If you create the right ambience, nobody will be begging the government for a job in this country. You'd be amazed at how resourceful Nigerians are.
Absolutely. I really agree. Thank you so much for coming on the show. This was a very interesting conversation.
Thank you.
And that is all on this episode of the University Dwell podcast. See you next time. Bye.